Yes, they sucked. I have never seen a quarterback so wound tight as I did today. I haven't seen anybody that wound tight. The dude needs something to relax him. A Quaalude, a doobie. Bring his wife in to get laid. Something. This was absolutely horrible. And it is pathetic. Now, do we go into NFL purgatory with the present administration? Who was it that went for the pretty shiny object? Was it the ownership? Was it Spielman? Was it the coach? And I believe it wasn't the coach because the coach wanted Teddy. And there you go. Seattle wins. Last second field goal. And that's all over. It doesn't matter anyways. The Vikings have sucked this year. If they could have beat teams they needed to beat, we would be in the playoffs. But no, they don't even deserve to be in the playoffs because they suck. They have absolutely sucked. What happened to the Fire when you go 5 freaking drives with 3 and outs? What is your problem?
Hey, buddy. just doing a pregame rant, are you?
Yeah, just doing a pregame rant. That's exactly what I'm doing. Good morning, Gjallarhorn. We just witnessed probably one of the worst games of the season. Vikings came out flat. I think it was 5 3 and outs. I may have taken my notes wrong, but it was at least 4.
I would say it's the same as about 5 other games this season. I don't think it was any worse than any of those fucking ones.
Yeah, but the difference on this one is it counted because they needed this one because they blew the other ones.
You need them all
to get into the playoffs. And they failed miserably. And now we enter a period of what is probably known as NFL Purgatory. And I'm not talking about the ski resort in Colorado. I'm talking about we are chained to a quarterback and most likely a coach and a GM, because they're all 3 tied together, for the length of that quarterback's contract, which is 3 years. We just went through the first one, so we probably have 2 more to go. Even the quarterback, even though the coach and the GM have a contract through next year, they'll probably be extended 1 year to see how beyond that, but we'll see. But this year, we saw that quarterback with the gaudy numbers played up to his reputation of being just a 500 quarterback or a little bit better that can't win in big games. I have never, ever seen somebody wound so tight. It was obvious. It oozed out of him. And the other players were seeing it, and it caused angst from seeing Diggs and Thielen yell at him on the sidelines to, just all over the place, and it was bad. But here to discuss this loss in the final game of the season, which now places us out of the playoffs, is Drew Bunting and Ted Glover. How you doing, Drew?
I don't know. I don't really. You never want to. It's probably not a good time to do shows, even though we call it the Raw, because you never want to, talk to fans after, a game like this, because everybody wants to fire everybody and kill everybody and fire everybody all over again. But listen,
Yeah, but isn't that the point to get those raw emotions?
This team has problems. And listen, I don't work for NFL team, so I can only go off what I am told by, other coaches like Parcells, or even, Tom Jackson used to work at ESPN, Rodney Harrison, whoever, guys that are around it.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a team that's uninspired and they lack a lot of creativity and there's really no fire there, and it seems like everybody's just kind of going through the motions. When you see that, according to them, it's all goes back to the coach. And that could be, at this point, how could you rule that out? I don't know that how it's, I kind of see that from Zimmer all season. We've kind of been thinking, where's the fire? And, what's going on with him as a head coach? If that's the case, to go back to what you just said, I don't think you should be held ransom by anybody in an organization. If that's the case, if Zimmer feels that way, he needs to walk away now and let somebody else take over. You can't just be there for a paycheck. But when I see, like I said, I don't work for an NFL team, so I can only go by what I hear other people say. And it looks like teams look like they quit. It goes right down to the coaching or the coaching staff. So, how do you rule that out? If you kind of want to look at the big problems that are here, what do you do at this point? It's certainly a regression from 13-3 in the NFC title game to 8-7-1.
I don't. It can't be discounted. Last year, the Vikings played hard football for 60 minutes for the most part. Just off the top of my head, the only game I can think where they just came out flat and got behind early was at Carolina. And that was like their third straight road game against really good teams. Yet they rallied and came back and darn near won that game.
Right.
And this year, man, I don't know what the deal is. Everybody thought, well, it's DeFilippo's fault. This offense was no different today than what John DeFilippo did for a vast majority of the season until he got fired.
That's a good point.
So if it's not, and for a good part of what they did last week against Detroit for the better part of the first half. So if Stefanski or if DeFilippo wasn't the problem, what is the problem?
That is something I thought of during the game that I wanted to specifically ask you about when we got to this show, because I didn't get a chance to really talk to you last week. The Vikings do not look like they make a game plan at all. It's the same plays against every team. When they did look like they made a game plan? The week DeFilippo got fired and we came out against the Dolphins. That looks like the week we actually spent time and drew up a game plan. So over the course of the last month, and I like I said, I'm not there with the team walking around with, I don't know what Zimmer does during the week, but when you look at this product on Sunday, don't all the game plans look the same? It all looks the same to me.
I was thinking about this, and I hate to say this about one guy, because for every Kirk Cousins criticism, you can come up with another reason why the Vikings didn't win today.
Sure.
The defense really folded in the second half after the offense finally came to life and scored a touchdown and got within 3 points. But the only difference, they even re-signed Tom Johnson. So the only difference between this year and last year between the offense and defense is the starting quarterback.
The it factor.
And Dave and I were talking about this. Last year, Case Keenum was fearless. He had no problems throwing a football up and trusting Stefon Diggs or Adam Thielen or Rudolph or whoever to catch the ball. And Cousins is not fearless. He will not seemingly take a risk. And I think that frustration came out at the end of the first half today when Thielen and Cousins and Diggs, or even Diggs, were kind of all having this heated, animated conversation on the sideline right before halftime. There's just something. There's something about this offense that they're not on the same page like they were last year.
Could it be they just don't like the guy? I mean, it could come down to something. Let me ask you something. When we got Kirk Cousins, was DeFilippo brought in before then? before we signed him?
Yes,
I believe so.
Yeah, because he helped evaluate all the quarterbacks.
Yep.
Figure out which one he wanted.
I had heard that Zimmer wasn't real blown away by Kirk Cousins, and he kind of went along with how everybody wanted to go along with it. Like DiFilippo came in and said, "I can make it work with this guy." Now, if that's the case, and DiFilippo gets the axe, doesn't that just open up the box of worms of I don't like you, and then the players don't like you, and more inner turmoil? I mean, you never want to make more drama than what it is. Something is going on here, guys. It's not all X's and O's. There's some kind of internal implosion that's going on with this team. They look too terrible.
That seems apparent, especially you heard Thielen's got caught on the hot mic at Seattle, after the game had been lost, and he said something to the effect, after he finally caught a pass for like 15 yards and a screen pass or whatever it was, "That's been here all night. We're not throwing it." I mean, there is tangible frustration with something in the Minnesota Vikings locker room. Whether it's Mike Zimmer, I think you could make an argument it's with Zimmer, because there's no reason the Vikings should have lost to every single team they played that ended up above 500 this year. There's none.
Right.
Well, I guess the Eagles are above 500 now, and they beat the Eagles. That's the only team they'll have beaten that's above 500. There is no reason that should have happened this year. You could argue it's Kirk Cousins, because Cousins just doesn't look like he's on the same page with Thielen, Diggs, Rudolph, and Cook, and whatever. I don't know what the answer is, man. But I knew there's going to be it's going to be another freaking long offseason for Minnesota Vikings fans, and it sucks.
Everything looks scared. The coach looks scared. We play scared. Cousins looks scared. They're really hesitant. Let me tell you something. At the end of last season, we all were saying we got to fix the offensive line. Let me tell you what I think happened, Ted. I think Zimmer went along with what Rick wanted. I think they just kind of half-assed the O-line. They got O'Neal. He's just a kid. He hasn't grown into what he's going to be. Other than that, they didn't really address it, the offensive line. They're doing the Remmers, Reef thing, and Isadora. They've we got 50 miles to get home. The tire came off. Oh, we only got 2 lug nuts. Let's strap it on there and see if the fucking thing gets us there. I think they didn't put enough attention into it, and they kind of went, but we're good at all the skill positions. We're really good at defense. We can hold our own in all these other areas. We can overcome the deficiencies of the offensive line, and we can still win a title. I think they kind of went along with that thought process, and it didn't work.
I agree, and I think one of the reasons –
and DiFilippo didn't work.
I think one of the reasons they were able to get so far last year is because, look, let's face it, man. We've seen an entire 16-game schedule and 15 games with Case Keenum last year. Keenum has better pocket presence than Kirk Cousins does. He just does.
Yes, he does.
He was able to climb the pocket and get out of trouble. And I can think of at least 9 or 10 times right off the top of my head where I feel Keenum would have been able to get away from a sack that Cousins ate this year and either gotten 7 or 8 yards on a run or kept a play alive and made a play.
Sure. He's the power hitter in your lineup that strikes out 4 times but hits 2 bombs. He at least did something to come out the other side where we could at least be. I mean, this is the worst Viking offense. I mean, it's bad. It's the last 2 games are really.
Well, as I posted, we have 2,000+ yard receivers.
Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Right, which is fantastic.
No, it's not. They're 8-7-1. It doesn't matter.
Right. But that's what I was getting to. You've got talent, but yet you can't put together in a cohesive manner to make that talent turn it into wins over the majority of the season. You gotta say, yeah, Dave, 8-7-1 is the majority. Yeah, it's above 50%. But it should be a lot more than that. We should have
start at the line of scrimmage.
7-1.
You got to start with the line of scrimmage.
At least won 10 games.
Ted, what's your take on Rick Spielman?
Overall, his Achilles heel is the offensive line. But overall, and I think this Kirk Cousins contract will be debated for years.
Right.
Overall, I think he's been a pretty good general manager since he got the reins, full control of the roster in 2012. I tire of the argument that Spielman ignores the offensive line. He is not. I will agree that his fixes or solutions for the offensive line have been bad. I mean, in 2016, he counted on Phil Lodeholt and John Sullivan to come back from injuries. They've drafted poorly. But 2 years ago, he got Rimmers in free agency. I thought both those guys played very well last year at tackle. I still don't understand why they moved Mike Remmers inside and didn't draft a guard and kept Remmers back at right tackle. I thought he played much better at tackle last year than he played at guard this year. Reef hasn't been bad. He wasn't as good as he was last year, but he hasn't been as terrible as a lot of people think. The interior line is a mess for the Vikings. I mean, yeah, you lost Nick Easton, but when your solution to that is Tom Compton.
Yeah.
And then they traded for that guy from the Giants, Brett Jones.
What happened with that?
And this is the good thing about Brett Jones. He's got some position flexibility, played guard and center for the New York Giants last season and this summer at training camp. Remember, the goal at the end of the day when the Vikings line up against the Niners is to have the 5 healthiest, best linemen out on the field. I think Brett Jones has a chance to be one of them.
And I don't for the first few games while what's his face? Center.
Pat Elflein.
Pat Elflein was out. And then they haven't used him since. That makes no sense.
And I don't get that at all. I mean, you can't tell me at this point in the year that Danny Isadora or
Jones.
Brett Jones or Dave Stefano would be any worse than Tom Compton. I mean, the guy got him and Remmers were terrible. They've been terrible for a majority of the year.
Compton, dude. Here's a good test, and let me ask you guys this. You can be after Ted coughs one up, you can be the judge of this. If you
having a coughing fit.
Listen, here's a good test to go by, and I kind of do this. You can do this individually with players, or you can do it as a whole with a team. You take the Minnesota Vikings roster and you print it up right in front of you. You take the Chicago Bears roster and you print it up, and you lay those 2 sheets of paper right in front of you, and you go down positionally all the way, offense, defense, special teams, and you circle one side or the other. Do you think the Chicago Bears have a better talent on their roster than we do?
No.
Not overall. No way.
Okay. No. Now stop there. Then why are they 5 times better than us? It's a good way to look at it. And if that's the case, they're not just marginally better. That team I saw today is way better, way further than we are. Why is it like that? If that's the case, then it has to be something internal with the coaching, right? I mean, is that
either that or it's chemistry.
Again, and then where does
if we have more talent than they do, why do they outplay us on both sides of the ball?
So if it's chemistry, then I think it's still a fair question to ask. Then where does coaching fall in to fixing that chemistry or solving that issue?
You damn tootin'. That's a great question.
Yeah, coaching or the GM into that chemistry. You've picked wrong players to put in the spots that cause issues that grind against personalities, grind against each other, that do not work together. They do not have that sixth sense, especially with a quarterback and receivers. You want that sixth sense. So if the quarterback is escaping like Case Keenum did last year, he knows mentally via ESP or whatever you want to call it, where his receivers are, and he can go to the ball. That did not exist this year.
But now, as the season goes on, you can't blame the GM. The GM falls to the wayside. As the season's playing out, the GM really doesn't have any say anymore.
Yeah, but how can the coach teach something that should come natural, that should come between the two? Do you sit there and go, hey, I want you guys throwing passes to each other when you're off the clock so that you can build this up? And I want my defense to run against you so you know what it feels like to be under pressure. They're going to say, screw you. I've got a contract. I only need to show up from this time to this time.
So who's selecting these players when all the shit hits the fan and the chess pieces hit the table and the rubber hits the road?
It's the GM, not the coach.
You telling me Rick Spielman picks all these guys and tells Zimmer, you win with them, and he doesn't have any fucking say? Who wants to be a head?
He does have say, but Spielman has the most say in it.
Then that's not right. I'd want the guy that
most coaches fit
the guy that's been coaching and watching football for 40 years, involved with the Cowboys and involved with everybody, everything Mike Zimmer's done. I'd rather have him making the call. Don't you think?
I agree, but that's not the way most NFL teams work. Most NFL teams work that the GM has the final say, and we've seen it numerous times, right? Especially when coaches take over that position, the personnel position, where they say, these are the players you're going to have work with it. Now, when coaches take over, they tend to say, these are the players I want, and they miss the stuff that a normal GM would offer and scout and see in there. It's got to work well together. And if Spielman comes in and says, I don't care if you want Teddy, I don't care if you want Keenum, you're getting Cousins. Deal with it. And Zimmer goes in there and goes, all right, I've got Cousins.
I mean, that's not the way to do it then, if you ask me.
I don't, but that's the way most.
I don't think that's how.
I think that is not the dynamic between Spielman and Zimmer at all. I think they have consensus on players. Now it could be that Zimmer maybe says, yeah, okay, whatever, to a player or two. I'd give you that.
Yeah, but the final say always goes to Spielman in this present setup.
Right, but I'm having a hard time believing that Rick Spielman says we're going to get this player and you're gonna suck it up,
right?
And you're going to deal with it, and if not, you're going to lick my tits, as Drew likes to say.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I would have to. I would. That's kind of what I was trying to say. I don't think it. Yeah. I would.
I think if Mike Zimmer had been adamant, for example, if Mike Zimmer had been adamant against bringing in Kirk Cousins or Sheldon Richardson, neither one of them would have been wearing the Vikings uniform this year. If Zimmer had said absolutely no way, shape, or form is that going to happen, I think what happened with the quarterback situation. I mean, you look at Keenum, and you could argue he had a lightning in a bottle year last year, and he sort of. You look at how he played this year.
Yeah.
You look at how he played this year and the mess the Vikings offensive line was, you could say that was a legitimate argument. There were reports that the Vikings didn't have confidence that Teddy Bridgewater's knee could withstand a 16-game NFL schedule.
Which was true.
It's like Zimmer's thrown the dice on all these things and none of them came out right. The dice on that and it failed and this failed and the Bridgewater failed. Everything failed. It's like nothing came up the way he wanted it to go. I mean, but the bottom line is, if he doesn't like Cousins or there's a disconnect, why go through 2 more years? Is there anything to do at this point?
There's not. You can't. I mean, with a fully guaranteed contract, you're going to eat $28 million or $29 next year. I think $31 million in 2020 in dead cap space. That's untenable. You can't do that.
So we're just going to go 8-8 the next 2 years? I mean, give me something to cheer for here.
No, that's what's going to happen, dude. Unless there is some magic pill where somebody can plug in and figure out what the deal is with an offensive coordinator. I mean, 2 weeks ago I was thinking, sign Stefanski, but I don't think the offensive coordinator is the issue. I mean, answers on the offensive line, but it's not just Stefanski.
Where is the creativity within the playbook? I don't see a lot of jet sweeps or screens or things that really get me going. I mean, how many times today did you guys say, "Wow, it's a nice play call"? I mean, I don't think I said. I mean, I might have said that once.
Honestly, when right before the Vikings scored their touchdown, when Cook went out of bounds and it was like 4th and inches or whatever, and the Vikings went up to the line real quick and Cousins snuck it and got the first down. I'm like, man, great call. And then it's whistle dead because Zimmer challenged the play. He challenged the spot.
So even
what are you doing?
Then we go with another roll of the dice.
Oh.
His dice rolling hasn't worked. You know, it's pretty sad when like the second quarter we punted and they lost like 40 yards on the return.
Yeah.
And my wife saw, wow, there's the highlight of the Vikings game, the punt coverage. And I'm going, yeah, it's pretty
the
sad.
only blue chip player of the game, the punter. Wow.
Yeah.
That's nothing to me. You're hanging your hat on your punter. You're having a long day, baby.
It's been a bad day, man. Yeah.
It was, yeah, but it just feels as you're watching. We've all watched enough football to know that this isn't just a bad day. There's something going on with this team, but the only way to look at it for me is how do you remedy it? I mean, I don't want to go into the season and just muddle through to another 8-8 bowl. If there's a problem with the coach or the quarterback, it's got to be fixed. I mean, does the coordinator iron everything out?
Yeah, but is it a problem with the coach? Problem with the GM? Are the GM and the coach tied at the hip?
Then you got to talk about what does your owner think of all this? I picture Ziggy Wilf.
That's exactly.
I picture him just being the guy with a cocktail in his hand saying, you guys all figure it out, and then laughing. I don't really picture him as, I mean, how hands-on is he?
He's the anti-Jerry Jones owner. That's for sure.
I mean, does he really, is he really?
Yeah, but he was supposedly involved in the we need Kirk Cousins portion.
Well, I mean, if you're going to commit that much guaranteed money to one player, of course the owner's going to be involved in that decision. But I agree that there is some sort of locker room dynamic going on that I and again, I don't know if it's between the coach and the quarterback, or the quarterback and the rest of the offense, or the offensive coordinator and the rest of the offense, or I don't know.
Right.
But there's something going on.
Guys yelling on the sidelines isn't normal.
Because this team had an all for one and one for all mentality last year, and it carried them a long way.
Sure.
And about 4 or 5 games ago, there was a bunch of finger pointing that started happening between the Vikings, especially on offense. So I don't know.
Well, I asked you back at week 8. What was that? 4 years ago? I asked you. You said we were a 500 team, and here we sit 8-7-1, and a 500 team isn't good enough to be a playoff team.
No,
we're just, you know what, guys? We're not that good. We're not as good as we thought this team was.
We are the 18th in the draft.
But then I bring up the fact that take the roster deal again, put it up against any team. When you go down the list, I mean, you got Thielen and Diggs and Sheldon Richardson and Linville Joseph and Kendra. I mean, we got a pretty good damn team roster wise. But on the other end, when it's all cultivated, moved down out, and then the end result is a 500 team. You know, 500 team usually has 500 talent. Am I wrong? I mean, come on. How does that play out?
Usually. And the difference between last year and this year is the quarterback.
An $84 million quarterback and a $99 line. I mean, who thought that was a good idea? Who thought that was a good idea? If you're going to spend all that money on a quarterback.
All they had. They didn't have any more money. They were broke.
Well, then don't draft a wide receiver that's not going to play in the first round. For fuck's sake.
Yeah, but that was 4 years ago.
That all carries over, dude.
Anyways.
Frustrating.
We'll wrap this up. We've got
wrap it up.
To talk about over the off season.
I want to hear your take on it.
Off season rolls starting next week. Now, however, Good Morning Gjallarhorn will probably go after this episode to once a week, since we're now in the off season. Probably after each playoff weekend. We'll go from there. We'll obviously have specials when it comes leading up into the draft. And we'll talk to some very knowledgeable people up until then. And you can join me and Ted and Drew.
Where are we going? First 2 rounds, Ted. Where are we in April? Give me some early cabbage to chew on. Where are we going? What position? First 2 rounds.
Guard and guard.
We definitely need a guard. But who knows? We also need, there's a lot of positions we need. More better than some. We may even draft a quarterback.
We got a lot of talent in this. It's not like we have to fill a bunch of holes. We're not in a rebuild. I don't understand
there
why that is.
There are some holes other than guard. Obviously, the offensive line needs some direct help.
I mean, at the end of last season, sure, we lost that title game, but all of us were thinking, man, we're sitting pretty good right now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're probably going to need a linebacker. We're probably going to need an extra DB. We knew that today when injuries on defensive backs went down to where Curse was playing at nickel.
You know what? Ted said about 4 weeks ago that Spielman better draft 14 offensive linemen. I think I'm in with that. I think I'm going to go that. I'm going to agree. I'm going to vote for that, what Ted said. I remember when he said that, and I'm kind of like, if our whole line went offensive line, I probably wouldn't bother me at all.
Hey, before we go, quick hot take. Do the Vikings re-sign Sheldon Richardson, Anthony Barr, both or neither?
I'm going to say Richardson, not Barr. Richardson.
That's what I'm hoping for is Richardson and not Barr. I could settle with Barr, but he's going to cost too much, and he takes half the season off. So give me Richardson every day of the week. Barr can walk.
Another hot take.
Too much money.
Is Harris the starting other safety, or do we need to go get somebody in free agency?
Harris is the guy.
Harris is the guy.
I kind of like these hot takes back and forth. Maybe we should.
Harris, up until this game, I think was the number 2 ranked free safety in the NFL.
I got another very cool game for you guys next week, by the way. I'm ready to unveil it.
Cool.
So.
Speaking of which, we have some of those to put in the off season.
Well, I'm still waiting on one.
I know. I'm still waiting time to edit it. With going once a week, I will have time to edit it. Anyway.
That's going to cut into your drinking time, though. You're going to be able to get drunk.
No, that's the only deal. I generally drink on Sundays during Vikings games.
Oh,
now they're over.
Just start drinking on days that end in Y.
Okay. You got it.
All right, guys. So,
anything you have to say, Drew?
Nah, fucking bullshit. Another season. We'll wait till next year.
Give me a meow meow Viking cow.
Meow meow Viking cow.
Ted?
Looking forward to the Rose Bowl in a couple days.
What's the spread on that anyway?
No idea. Ohio State is going to jail sex Washington, man.
What? Is that like Titslick?
No, it's worse. Trust me, it's worse.
It's gonna be absolute jail sex what they do in Washington.
So Titslick is like a 15 or 20. Jail sex is like a 50-point spread, right?
You got it.
It's like Urban Meyer's last game. Dwayne Haskins is probably going to the NFL. If they don't put 70 points on Washington, I will be surprised. I'm serious, man. They're gonna put 50 plus on Washington. They're not gonna put the throttle up until 2 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, maybe we'll put Shea Patterson in for you and see how he can do.
I want to cheer for my football team, not chew glass while watching them.
Shea Patterson. Kidding me? No, it's good. It's a bummer the show came to a close, but I feel better now that I'll be able to talk to you guys and get your takes on stuff. I think there's a lot of up in the air still, and let's keep the shows going in this offseason. It's going to be an interesting offseason.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more surprises coming down the road.
I think so, too.
I think we think there will be right now. I
don't want to go with the knee-jerk reaction, but if I woke up tomorrow and Zimmer quit and retired, it wouldn't surprise me. He doesn't look like he's having fun.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't.
I'm open. What I'm saying is I think anything could happen at this point. Anything can.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank all our viewers. This is our 45th episode. We only started this year. And I want to appreciate everybody. I do appreciate everybody that has watched and has been faithful and talked to us, from Climbing the Pocket side to Daily Norseman side, and everybody who's found us on YouTube.
And beer. Don't forget, thankful for that.
Well, I'm always thankful for beer. And I do want to thank you for a great season as we now move into the off season for the Vikings. We will cover the playoffs, but think about the beloved Vikings.
That's right.
And what they can do better. And everybody, go Vikings.